Thank you so much to everyone in the audience today. If you get a chance, you can go ahead and pop into our chat which country and if you know which program you're considering attending. That's always really helpful information for us to have. And that way we can try to gear our talk a little bit more in line with what your intentions are. We also have a Q&A that you're welcome to fill in at any point with any questions that you have regarding really any aspect of study abroad, whether it's in reaction to something a panelist has said or just a question off the top of your head. And thanks for getting us started, Emma. So we've got a couple students interested. Actually, we have many students interested in England. We've got summer at LSE, summer in Cambridge, England, Barcelona, Cambridge, and Florence. Okay. Very exciting. A lot of students interested in summer and Spain. Okay. Fantastic. Addie and Frank, how are we doing on getting cameras up and running?
Yeah, for some reason I don't see the camera option.
Oh, interesting. If you go to the up, do you see where your name is on the screen? In the upper right-hand corner, there should be a little three-dot option, and it should allow you to turn your camera on, or maybe in the bottom left-hand screen, there should be a camera option. Thanks to those who are adding their interests. A lot of interest in England. So very exciting. Awesome, Addie, you got it. Perfect. Okay, well, we'll give Frank another minute considering Frank will be the last panelist to introduce himself. So Hannah, how do you feel about getting started given that we are 3 minutes in?
Sounds great. I think we can go ahead and get started. And just for the purposes of this session, I believe we are recording. So I think we might make a formal introduction now, even though we've been chatting a little bit, just so we have, for the purposes of the recording, a little bit of a start date. So let's give it a moment and I'll start kind of reintroducing the session.
Fantastic.
So thank you all for joining our International Education Week session to connect with recent UCEAP returnees from Europe. My name is Hannah Vandersall, and I'm joined today by my colleague Bryn, and we are going to be hosting a panelist of our lovely returnees. We're going to go ahead and get started. So just a quick reminder what our session focus is today. So this returnee panel is geared toward what life is like abroad in Europe. So please feel free to ask our returnees questions about anything from what to pack to handle homesickness, just life abroad, general questions. So, and just a reminder that program specific questions are going to be best directed to your UC Campus Study Abroad office or the UCEAP system-wide office for assistance. So all of our panelists have been participating on specific programs, which means they probably are not going to be able to answer questions about programs they didn't participate on. So just a reminder, if you have any specific program questions, you can just send those to UCAP or your UC campus. And we'll go ahead and start with introductions. We have our panelists' names all up here so everyone can see just kind of everything written down, but I'm just about to stop sharing so that we can have all of our panelists be a little bit more visible so we can have more of like a roundtable discussion, and I'll let Bryn take over to manage the introduction.
Okay, excellent. Well, I'll introduce myself briefly. My name is Bryn Lemon. I use she, her pronouns, and I am the Assistant Director of Alumni Engagement and Scholarships in our system-wide office for UCEAP. So I am also an alumna of our programs. I studied at UCSB for my undergraduate degree in English literature, and I studied abroad at the University of Edinburgh. And I stayed there for a full year. I loved my experience so much that I applied to work in our office post-graduation and moved back to Edinburgh for a second year. So I love Scotland, has a deep place in my heart. When I finished that program, I ended up moving down to Chile and living there for a year as well. We weren't able to get a participant from one of our America's programs, so if you have any questions about Chile, I should be able to answer some of those. And I loved that experience. I got to learn Spanish and connect with a wonderful river rafting community down there before moving back to Santa Barbara to begin working for our programs. And Hannah is also an alumna of our program, so I'll have her introduce herself briefly.
Yes, I studied abroad. I'm a UC Davis alum, and I went through UCAP to the University of York in England, and then I returned for my master's at Durham University. So I also have some experience in the UK. And I've been at UCAP for about 9 years now.
Thank you, Hannah. That's perfect. So Simon, will have you go first if you like, for your introduction.
Hi everyone, I'm Saman. I recently just graduated from UC Santa Cruz, and I did a spring semester exchange in Bologna, Italy. I'm actually looking to go back also for my master's, so still very involved with the international student community, and I'm here to help with any questions.
Thank you so much. Fantastic. Addie, do you want to go ahead and go next?
Sure. My name's Addie Palacios, and I went to the University of Barcelona at the beginning of this year for 6 months.
Thank you so much, Addie. And Addie is currently a student at UC Riverside. So we have a wide array of students from all different UCs at our talk today. So that's really exciting. Thank you so much. And Kushi, would you like to go next?
Yeah, of course. Hi, everyone. My name is Kushi, and I am currently a senior at UC San Diego. I was studying at Cambridge in 2023 summer, and I was in the Pembroke College Summer in Cambridge program. And yeah, happy to be here and be a part of this panel. And please do ask any questions that you have.
Thank you so much. Awesome. Okay, and Frank, would you be able to unmute yourself and introduce yourself? Seems like Frank might be having some technical issues with getting access to unmute and turn on their camera. So in the meantime, we can maybe go ahead and get started. And Frank, if you're able to sort those issues, we'd welcome your participation. So the way this is going to work is we can certainly ask questions. We can assume what you want to know, but we really want to hear from you. So students in the audience, the best way to go about this panel is to submit questions through the Q&A. And we already have two actually. So thank you so much for getting us started here. I think the first question is a great one to begin with, which is, what were the attitudes towards students by the locals in the country that you attended? So anyone who wants to start, you're welcome to raise your hand and then unmute yourself and take over that question.
Yeah, so in Bologna, it was really like the perfect hub for students. Like there was a really big international group. They had Erasmus student network, which was a great way to connect. Locals, I feel like because already like there are so many students integrated into the city, um, I felt pretty welcome. I felt like I fit in pretty well, even if I didn't know Italian. Um, I feel like Bologna is a great city just to, um, get lost in, and everyone's really welcoming.
Thank you so much. Addie, did you want to contribute?
Yes. In Barcelona, it's already like an international city, so they're not really too worried about like international students. And also, I just already spoke Spanish, so it's a little bit easier for me to uh, assimilate myself.
Hmm. Thank you so much. Kushi, did you have anything you wanted to add to this?
No, I think everything they said was spot on and great for Cambridge as well.
Thank you so much. I can share from my experience in Edinburgh that I did find a lot of fascination with Californian culture, which I was surprised by. So I think that Scottish media, there's a lot of consumption of American media. So there was certainly some intrigue about Hollywood, and maybe it was a personal thing given I used to act as a kid, but there was a lot of intrigue in that. And so there was certainly a sense of welcome, and obviously political leanings have changed since I went abroad in 2015, but I think I did find that there was a lot of receptivity to American study abroad students. Hannah, did you have anything you wanted to say, or should we move on to our next question?
I think we can move on. We've got a lot of really great questions coming in. And I think we're going to need to balance between the Q&A section and some that are coming in through the chat as well.
You want to read the next one for us?
Sure. Let's see. Just a really quick one. Did you learn Catalan while you were in Barcelona? I think that's a quick one we can
A little bit.
answer. Were you able to manage with Spanish in Barcelona and English?
Yeah, a lot of people speak Spanish and also English. It's very common.
Great. So I see we have a lot of questions coming in about housing, roommates, housing cost, finding housing. I will say generally that some of this is going to be program specific. So programs that you're applying to, if you're on the UCEAP website for a program, each individual program does have a housing tab where you can find out information about the types of housing that are typically available for that program, be it something that's arranged through your program or something you have to find individually. But that said, I think it would be helpful for our panelists to maybe share your experience with housing. Was it something that you had to find on your own? Did you live with fellow UC EAP students? Did you live with locals? So yeah, I would just open it up since we have so many housing related questions.
Yeah, I can kick us off on that. For Cambridge, housing was included with the program. So we had to go through the housing portal through Cambridge. So it was all very simple. I don't think there was anything complicated, but I would definitely advise you all to start early on the housing, because there's like on-campus housing that you can stay in the Cambridge facilities, or you can stay near to campus. So, and there are different bands in the housing process. So there's band 1 to band 6, depending on like the room size and prices. So everything like goes out really fast. Like people pick it super fast because it's not just you and a lot of people doing the same program as you. So like be on top of it. But the process is very simple. Like you will have all instructions from Cambridge about how to go about housing, and you just pick it. And I think that's how the payment and all also goes. The cost, I think, again, it varies. It will be different from what I did in my year in 2023. But yeah, the process is simple. The only advice would be to start early so you can have like a choice in where you want to stay.
Yeah, I think that also goes for Bologna, except the difference was that um, the university didn't provide like university housing, since the university is so integrated with the city. UCAP did offer, like our study abroad office, offered some options just from previous students. I actually took the route of finding individual housing through like sites such as Immobiliare. There's a ton of other ones I can write for you, Mia, and anyone else interested. Um, I also went through Facebook, but I would be very, very cautious about scams. Never send any money before anything. Always look for a contract. And I ultimately did find something in my first week. I did like an in-person kind of like housing tour, and I ended up living with two Italian students in their first year, very central in the city, and it worked out for me pretty well. I would say housing prices range, between anywhere from 200 if you're in a double to, I would say, like 700 for a single. There's also sites such as Dove Vivo that I know a couple of my peers went with. So yeah.
Thank you so much. Addie, I saw you had your hand raised as well.
Yeah, so I recommend you to start early because for my program, we weren't really offered housing. We had to find our own housing, and might have procrastinated a little too hard on that. But it all turned out well. I used a site called Spot a Home, which I recommend. They make things a lot easier. But I also do recommend to like stay cautious because there are scams out there. And I got really lucky. Like I stayed with it was like an apartment and it was like brand new, and it was like 500 euros a month, and uh I stayed with random people. Like that's just something that's gonna happen if you like stay in an apartment with multiple like rooms. They'll just rent out the rooms to random people, and it was fine.
Thank you so much. Okay, awesome. If anyone in the audience or watching the recording is interested at the University of Edinburgh, there's so many different options. So if you have any personal questions about that, you're welcome to email me or talk to your advisor specific. I did a dorm style housing that I really loved. That was a central location with a meal catering plan as well. So there's lots of different options at the University of Edinburgh.
Oh, yes. I remembered like even Cambridge has an in-house catering. So no
Mhm.
matter where you live, live in these grand halls, like you have your breakfast, lunch, and dinner served all the time. So I feel like for me, it was extremely convenient because it was through the university. I did not have to worry about like my food in the day. So yeah, that was great. So I just remembered that as well.
Fantastic. Thank you so much for that feedback. I think I'll pop over to our chat for a question real quick. So the question essentially is, what was it like living in a country where a different language was spoken? Do you have tips about how you navigated that? Obviously, we've heard a little bit from Addie about navigating Spanish. And so, Simone, this might be more a question directed to you about, I know you said that you felt very welcome and you didn't necessarily need to know Italian, but in general, how did you find that experience?
Yeah, so with the Bologna program, I was really grateful that we had something called the ILP, which is like an intensive language program where basically we arrived a few weeks earlier. I'm not sure if they're still having it this like in this following year, but they still do offer some sort of language course or something either with UCEAP or with the university itself, which I felt like gave me, um, a goal to move towards. I really wanted to get to like a good level of A2 in Italian, and I think I achieved that. And I would say going like into it, not really knowing the language. People like at least in our age, they can like speak English. I would definitely try to learn some key phrases, how to greet your professor. Definitely show that you're making an effort and try listening to music, try to like make friends with Italian classmates. Or I mean not Italian, but anywhere you go. Show your interest in learning the language, and I think it'll take you pretty far, with social life, also like academically, and on your own personal growth.
I want
Thank
to
you
add.
so
Oh,
Please.
sorry, Bryn. I was just going
Yeah.
to say, I want to add that Frank, our returnee from Germany, shared in the chat that similar for Germany, that it was really interesting being there where you hear and read a lot of German, but a lot of people still spoke English in Germany, in Berlin as well. So that does have some familiarity for you as an English speaker.
Mhm. Awesome. Any other thoughts or commentary about language before we move on? Okay.
There are some general questions about connecting with both UC students and locals, like making friends with local students, making friends with UC students. If you could all share some experience and maybe some tips for how to connect with folks, because it is you're kind of starting from scratch almost. You're starting back at square one at a new institution. Go ahead, Ed.
Yeah. What I say for my program, uh, they had these specific classes for international students, so from everywhere. Like there was like people from Germany, and then there was also people from like Illinois. Yeah. And those were fun because we could talk to anybody, and like we had group projects and things like that that we could like um meet new people. And then in my program, we also had the chance to take classes with the local students. And that was interesting because we got to like learn from them as well.
Yeah, we had in Bologna, there was a lot of like, I don't know. Actually, that's not true. Let me rephrase. So when I arrived, there was like a smaller amount of UC students compared to the fall semester. But ultimately, I think that we created like a pretty good group where we mixed with some of the Unibo students that wanted to come to the UC program. So it was kind of like its own mini exchange in a way that I think like depending on your office, maybe there'll be like an opportunity to like come together with the California students in all campuses and also like connect with local students as well. There's really like so many ways that like you can connect with people, and I really think you don't have to overthink it, just as long as you have the intention and you put the effort. I think like that also has to do with having some good like scheduling and timing um, in your time abroad.
I think for me, before starting the program, there was like a group chat created with all the UC students that were going to summer in Cambridge. So I think that was really nice, just have a group chat of all the UC students connected. And I think I don't remember it very clearly, but I think UCEAP helped us with that because that's how all the UC students connected. So that was great because I knew a few folks before even landing in Cambridge, and we could coordinate actually our timings of our train from London Heathrow Airport to Cambridge. So we could like travel together to the campus. So I think that group really helped us connect with all the UC folks who were coming from the America. And I would say during the program, it was great. I feel like the friends that I made in my study abroad program, they are one of my best friends now. Like I'm still in touch with them. They were from all over the world, from Singapore, Hong Kong, Canada, the US itself, and like all over the world, even from like some people from Egypt and everything. So it was a very wholesome program for me. I think Cambridge also made the effort to bring everybody in because we ate meals together. I think that really helped us to like foster bonds just outside of classes. And we used to meet everybody. There were study groups that were formed. We used to like form group chats, and every weekend there were plans to travel. So I think we used to like go to London, just take the train and go to London, or like Edinburgh. So I've been to Scotland. It's beautiful. Yeah. And we flew to a few places. So I think everybody is super friendly because it's not just you in the program who's new. Everybody's starting out. So don't be afraid. I think it's everybody's very friendly. They're in the same boat as you. And there are a lot of opportunities to make friends. So put yourself out there, I would say, and don't be afraid to start a conversation. You'll find a lot of people from your own university as well. So yeah, definitely like do your best, and trust me, it's going to be one of the best experiences of your life.
I love that answer. And thank you, Kushi, for mentioning that like the group chats could be created. Absolutely. When you get to the pre-departure phase of your program, if you want to connect with other UC students, you could email UCEAP and you can set up a group meet or a Discord or whatever you'd like. In that way, that then UCEAP can send that out to all of the UC students in that program, so you can connect and kind of get that conversation going before you even get to meet in person.
Definitely. And some programs will also have orientations once you land in country. So you'll be able to meet other UC students once you're there. Some UCs will offer in-person pre-departure orientations. We also offer virtual ones. So there's ways to connect with UC participants prior to and once arriving in country. And something I would also say, and something I always caution, is comparative experiences. So I think obviously we have a lot of expertise on our panel from personal experience. It may be challenging to meet friends while abroad. It may be a very vulnerable undertaking, and I certainly experienced that at points during my experience. And I just want to caution any kind of comparative leanings here. So every experience is unique. So whether you make friends on the first week or you make them in the last week, it's your own journey. So getting involved with societies is always really great. So external organizations, you know, let's say you have a passion for live action role playing, which is one of the societies I joined while in Scotland. You know, there's some very unique opportunities while abroad that you can take advantage of. And many institutions will also do their own version of like a freshers week. So freshmen and international students will come together for events. And I know that was mentioned to an extent here, but there's a lot of opportunities to meet people. And also, if you don't meet your friends for life on the first day, I wouldn't panic. So, okay, thanks everyone for your answers there. We have a lot of questions about academics. So I thought I might give a few key points here, and then each panelist can take their turn in answering these questions. So I think to start, we can focus on comparing your coursework at home to your coursework abroad. How does the rigor compare? How does the course load compare? How do you balance the course load against your other experiences while abroad? I'd say that's somewhere to start. You know, did your classes transfer over and did you get credit for them in your major is the second component that students are curious about. So I know that's a lot of questions. I'm happy to reiterate them, but that's kind of the general overview of what I'm seeing in the chat. And anyone who wants to start, you're very welcome to begin.
I can just start. So for me, I am a business economics major, minoring in finance. So I took 3 classes. I know that there were like 3 questions about academics, particularly in Cambridge. So I'm just going to like try and cover everything that you said, Bryn, as well. So I took 3 classes, economics of growth and development. The second one was business risk and strategic outlook. And the third one was natural resource management. So these 3 classes were great. I think, yes, my credits did get transferred and it was through the UC system entirely. I did not have to worry about it at all. It was very smooth. I think what I did was before my program, I made sure to send a message to my advisors and make sure that which requirement is being fulfilled, because I did not want to get a shock after the program that, you know, this did not cover like a major requirement. So I knew that what requirements it would cover before the program even started. So I think I would definitely advise you guys to reach out to your advisors or faculty, anybody who can like guide you on like which requirement this will be fulfilling or not. Yeah, I think that's one thing I did. What was the other question, Bryn, that you said?
How would you compare the rigor of the courses you took abroad to those you're taking at your home?
Yeah, of course. So at UCSD, of course, as you all know, the quarter is about 10 weeks. At Cambridge, the 3 courses I did was 3 weeks long each. So definitely like time makes a huge difference. We had classes almost every day, whether it was like a discussion section or was it like whether it was like a lecture. The rigor was not as much because I think just logically also like 10 weeks cannot be taught in 3 weeks. And we had a written exam for each of my tests. I'm only talking about business and political science courses. It was different for bio courses. I know that my friends took them and they were a little bit difficult, but yeah, I think it wasn't that rigorous. Definitely, like I learned a lot because this format of studying in Europe or like the UK education system is a lot different than US. US is more like practical, but in the UK you will learn a lot of theory and you'll go a lot of in depth in the subject. So I would definitely say that there's a difference in the way they teach everything. So you might find it a bit difficult in the beginning, but I think you get a hang of it, and the professors are very helpful at Cambridge, and your peers are also like always there. There are a lot of group study sessions and group discussions that you can be a part of, and that will help you navigate. But it's not as rigorous as you know, a normal quarter at a UC, and you'll definitely have a lot of time in your hand to, you know, just explore the city and also do things outside of academics. So that would be my answer.
Yeah, I have to say in Italy it was quite similar, in the sense that the courses focused a lot more on theory. I studied sociology, but there weren't really any sociology courses in English, so I kind of switched my major around to like, I don't know, I did a bit of history, I did gender studies. I did a political science course, and then like a Italian language learning course. So I did 4 classes total, and it was also a semester system. And I would say, yeah, studying is quite different in the sense that like you don't really have these like small projects that you do throughout your courses. And it's more like you kind of just take the exam. And this was something I was really nervous about because of course I wasn't used to it. And um I think what helped a lot was you really have to like, try to like get to know people in your class and like try to form some sort of relationship where, you could study together, like someone you can ask questions to. I would say like the most helpful thing in my experience was like making friends with Italian students that like were in that major, because also um the upper division courses that we take in our bachelor's, at least in Italy, they were master courses. But I would say the level of difficulty was like pretty much the same. It's just like studying for that final exam where you can have a bit of nerves. The format of the exams were also, depending on um, the professor. There were oral exams, there was oral and essays, where, you would do both or maybe just written exams. Um, I would say it's definitely feels like daunting, but um, your professor should explain it to you. You'll get the hang of things, you definitely have to like put more time into studying, just because it is so theoretical and you have to like express some expertise on the subject. But I don't think it took away from, other parts of my exchange experience. I think you can definitely find a balance. Really just try to like seek a network for yourself. Try to connect with people. It makes things a lot more easier and puts things into perspective. You're really like not alone in the journey. You also have your study abroad office as well, and they helped me a ton with studying and organizing. So yeah.
For the University of Barcelona, I took 3 classes and an internship. So that is also an option through some programs. Um, and I took a class that was fully in Spanish. That was different because Spain Spanish is really fast. And it's more like they speak at you and you just write your notes. And like it's not really like project based or homework based. It's like you learn and then you take the test. Yeah, so it's kind of hard to study, but what my uh professor did was like she like handed out like these like study sheets, which was really helpful for someone who's like not really taking Spanish classes. And then also for the internship I took, it was running a English language conversation group. And that was fun because it wasn't like young kids, it was like college kids and people who were older.
Thank you so much to everyone. I will comment that some of the universities will have a grade exchange, so you may, while abroad, the grading system may be pretty different. So particularly in Scotland, I believe this is the case across the UK, the standard for 100% is going to be drastically different than it is here in the US. So it's essentially publishable work is 100%. And so you may, on your first assignment, receive a 60%. And that might be incredibly frightening. However, there is a conversion rate to our grading system. So there's simply an understanding that 100% will be publishable. So your expectations should shift in that regard. And when you arrive in country, they will give you some orientation in that regard. So there's certainly less guidance in terms of an assignment and a grade immediately. It's kind of a long reading list, and you structure your study in the way that you want. It's far more independent, as many of our speakers mentioned. So.
Yeah, and I want to add that Frank, again, our returnee from Germany, shared over chat that for the Berlin summer program, the academic rigor was less strict than at a typical UC class, where there are more creative projects in the forms of presentations. But Frank really also enjoyed the various field trips across the city of Berlin that are associated with that Berlin summer program. I also want to add to what Bryn shared. A lot of our programs in Europe don't have like a continuous assessment model like our panelists have shared. It's a lot of kind of self-study, going to lecture and doing the readings, and you're not really, for many programs, doing a lot of graded work throughout the term. It's often, for some programs, your entire grade is based on your final exam. That can seem very daunting, but this is also where UCEAP wants to give you this information in advance. Again, it varies by program. So this is the type of information that you'll see on our website, in our program guides, and stuff that we will share with you throughout the pre-departure process. I also wanted to add there were a couple of kind of more specific questions about like how do you make sure that classes will count for your major requirements. Kushi, I know you shared some of your experience about making sure you were staying in contact with your major advisors, and that's fantastic advice. So while on a UCEAP program, you will get direct UC credit for all of the courses you take abroad. What that means is that those are units towards your graduation, and your grades will go into your GPA. But if you want a course to count towards a specific major, minor, or GE or breadth requirement, that is at the discretion of your major department, your minor department, or your college. So if you haven't already started, it's always a great time to just check in with your major, minor, or college. Even if you don't have specific classes in mind yet, you can still get that conversation started. Let them know that you're planning on studying abroad. Ask them what they require or what their petition process is like for determining if a course will meet their major requirements and count towards your degree, because that information can help you plan ahead when looking for courses.
Yeah, I want to add to that. I would really recommend just to like chat with your major advisor or like general advisor, just because like they really help you lay out the courses that you want, and also you should be able to do like the course catalog. So and that just gives you like an idea of like the coursework and what you're interested in and what you want to get done while you're abroad. Um, yeah, I had a lot of back and forth with my advisor and figured out like something. I changed my classes several times actually, and it was no problem. Petitioning courses, it's pretty straightforward. Everything's on the site, and you can always ask questions. And your study abroad office should be pretty like vocal about when things are due, deadlines to switch. I feel like they gave me a lot of time to just be really sure. Also in Bologna, you can kind of do shopping for classes where, there's not really like a registration point, but UC makes one for you. But you have like kind of like a period to really shop around, see what courses you want, and everything, like they'll really explain it well to you once you arrive in that pre-departure phase or like arrival phase.
Yeah, it's really helpful. And as always, each program is different. So just a reminder that these are really great examples that the panelists are sharing, but just know that a lot of your specific program information is going to be unique to you. There are programs where you might be shopping around for classes when the program starts, and there might be programs where during the pre-departure process, your coursework is set. These are the classes you're taking. So there's going to be a variety in there. So always just make sure that you're checking your specific program information as well.
Thanks, Hannah. I saw several questions about cost, about financial aid, about funding your program and scholarships. So I do run the scholarships for our exchange programs here out of the system-wide office, so I'm happy to speak to that. I am putting into the chat a link to our program page called Paying for Study Abroad. So this gives you a general overview of some different ways in which you can fund your program. So the wonderful benefit of going through UCEAP as opposed to a third-party provider is, oh, sorry, I realize I'm sending these to hosts and panelists. Thank you. Is that your financial aid will transfer abroad with you. That being said, your package will be reevaluated based on the cost of your program. So I think that's something that students will often not fully understand. I've also linked to the scholarship page there as well. So essentially, if your program costs, let's say $30,000, but your program at the UC costs 25 typically, then your package will be reevaluated from the financial aid advisor's perspective and recalculated. So you may receive more aid, you may receive less aid if your program costs less. So it is challenging to speak to each individual student's package. It is something that you will need to go to your particular financial aid office for advice on. However, there are a lot of funding opportunities. So we offer a lot of scholarships through our office. Our primary scholarship, our overarching award, is called the Global Scholarship, and that is available to every student who goes abroad on UCEAP. Everyone is eligible for it. It is a competitive award, so not all students are offered a scholarship, but I do encourage you to apply. If you're going abroad for a year, we have a lot of opportunities for year-long scholarships, and those can be a wonderful bonus to your program. You know, they can certainly fund a good portion of your costs. We also offer country-specific scholarships. So Italy in particular, we have several Italy scholarships. We have some for Mexico. We have some for different regions of the world as well. So I recommend checking out that site. Our scholarship opportunity will open again in January. So January 15th, both our our year-long scholarships will open, our fall scholarships, and our summer scholarships will all open on January 15th. I do recommend you check out the dates that those applications are due. It's really important to get those in on time. And beyond our office, each campus may have their own opportunities. So the funding varies campus to campus, but if you are interested in applying for scholarships, I would certainly look at what your individual UC is able to offer. So that's just a little overview of the funding that we offer, but I know that students had asked about how our panelists had managed costs abroad, so I'm happy to turn it back over to you all if you have feedback on that, if you have any thoughts on, I know someone had asked in particular, like, did you eat out a lot? Did you cook at home? How did you manage the cost of travel? So I'm happy to turn it back over to you. And I saw just now, confused on how financial aid works, did you get additional aid for that semester? If you have additional questions about financial aid, you can pop me an email and I'll find the right advisor for you, but I can't necessarily speak to an individual student's experience.
I guess I can start because for the food question, there I had to buy my own groceries uh and like own like things that I was going to use, but like it was a little bit hard to budget, mostly because the conversion is like it's because you have to convert from dollars to euros, and like euros are a little bit more expensive. So a lot of your like funds go to that, which is uh a bit hard. But also like um the way like my family did it is that they would send me some money every month and a half through through MoneyGram, because that was just easier for us to convert the money into euros. And also like um our through our financial aid off and not financial aid office, I mean through our UCEAP office in Barcelona, they recommended us to get Spanish bank accounts, so it would be easy, so you wouldn't be charged the conversion rate. And then um the eating out part is like it's kind of difficult because there's so many restaurants in Barcelona, and there's So good. So like that was that was the most difficult part for me, to be honest.
Me too. In Italy, I mean, in Italy, come on. It's very hard not to get a gelato after studying and treat yourself. I have to say though, like compared to California prices, um, I mean, it's still a city and you'll hear a lot of locals complaining about prices going up, but I think just like being from California and seeing there, like it's definitely a bit more affordable. I would recommend kind of like having an idea for a budget. And also, like, a lot of the social gatherings could sometimes involve going out to eat. Actually, oftentimes they do, or like taking an aperitivo or, having snacks and going, just eating is a big part of the culture. And I'm sure that's true for a lot of other places. So definitely budget. Like, I had a little budget for like, okay, social gatherings, food, and then like groceries, and then like treating myself sometimes. Um, so, uh, I would definitely recommend, just kind of getting an idea of like, um, how much you want to put into certain things. I definitely cooked a lot at home just because the ingredients were, um, really accessible and I had access to a kitchen. I lived in an apartment. Um, there's also like the like a food canteen that our university had, Bologna had, that had like some student discounts. Definitely keep an eye out for student discounts. And also I would recommend like at your local grocery store place if they offer like to like have like a point system or like some sort of like putting your phone number in. I definitely recommend that just because you can save a lot with like those little things. Additionally, I would recommend having a card or a credit card that has no foreign transaction fees. I know I saved a lot of money from that. I also can recommend Revolut. They're a great app for having paying for stuff in euros. They do have a bit of a conversion fee and rate, so just take that into consideration. And of course, you could always sign up for a local bank account or credit union or whatever is available. They should offer more details based on your unique situation, but in the case of Bologna, you can definitely find a balance. And um, I don't know. I ate well. I think that you will eat well in Italy as well.
I think for me, I was one of the recipients of the global scholarship. So yeah, I was very happy to receive that. So that definitely helped. Of course, it wasn't that big of an amount for me particularly, but yeah, anything helps. So apply for scholarships. You never know that you can get one and it'll help or waive off like a lot of financial load. The other thing about managing costs, I think, because the meal plan was included in Cambridge, I think managing meals wasn't that big of a deal for me. Also, Cambridge is a very walkable town and there are like a lot of restaurants around. So if you're like hungry, you can always like go. The timings, of course, like you keep in mind, but these are like very small things. I think just be open to all sorts of cuisine. I know that in the US, like we eat a lot of fast food and everything. It's there as well, but be open to different kinds of cuisines, and I'm sure that you'll have a good time. And I think budgeting in advance, like making sure that um, I can only speak for Cambridge, I would say. I would say that I didn't cook at all because we did have um, a place where it was like a shared kitchen between like, I think 12 to 15 people. So, and we did not even have cook pots or anything. And because meal was provided, mostly people at Cambridge did not cook. If we did, like it was more of like, oh, like let's cook together kind of a situation. But I don't think a lot of people cooked individually. So that was my personal experience.
Yeah, also
Thank you.
adding on to that. Sorry, I just want to add, yeah, with the scholarships as well, I would recommend if you receive the federal Pell Grant to apply for Gilman scholarships. I applied and I actually won it, and I was like, what? Like, I didn't expect it. It was a big help. They're really great. It's a great thing to apply for. And yeah, you really never know. Just apply and you'll find out. Yeah, it's really Gilman Scholarship. Yes.
One more thing I want to add about financial aid is what's not included in the UCEAP budget, which is used to build your financial aid, is like independent travel, like traveling on weekends, traveling into other countries, going out, you know, like going to a bar, those kinds of expenses are additional. So that's something that you would need to budget for. And just anecdotally, I was a financial aid recipient and I was able to study abroad. So definitely is possible. Feel free to reach out to your financial aid office. And Bryn also shared her contact information there. Earlier I was laughing at a question in the chat, which was, is British food really as bad as they say it is? And I will slightly defend British food. Kushi, you're able to jump in as well. I think maybe traditional British food probably gets a bad rap, maybe understandably, but I will say London is quite, and other cities are becoming quite international, and the cuisine is really diversifying, and there is a lot of great food to be found in the UK, but maybe some of the old traditional food is a little bit, maybe might fit that stereotype.
Just the breakfast, maybe like the
Yeah.
the boiled tomatoes. I feel like maybe just the breakfast, but it's good. Like
Those tomatoes.
Beans on toast.
So good. It's so good.
It's good, but yeah, London is a great place for food. Like they have so much. Like
Yeah.
I went and I was like, wow, like this is amazing. So yeah, don't worry too much.
One last comment I wanted to make about cost is that often, I think that's the case, it's the case here, but more so where I was in Scotland, student discounts are pretty well recognized at most places. So if you bring your student ID with you, you can get a discount at a lot of restaurants, a lot of events, travel as well. We had a couple questions about travel, which hopefully we'll be able to get to, but you know, rail cards, discounts for your age group and because you're a student. So always look for a student discount and where you can. I think that can definitely cut back on costs. And I recognize that we only have 7 more minutes. Do you have an idea of where you want to take the conversation from here? We had questions about travel. We had questions about,
I
you
think
know,
maybe some of the questions can be answered really quickly. I see a lot of great questions about weather, and rather than having this go to the panelists, I will say it's going to depend on the location and the time of year that you're going. A program in Spain in summer is going to have a much different weather profile than a program in England in winter. So I think we can skip those, not to say that they aren't great questions, but I would just recommend kind of like looking into that. And also keep in mind that maybe if you're looking at averages over the last 20 years, I have found that like the average weather in locations doesn't necessarily reflect the reality we live in now. Sometimes you'll see like the average weather in mainland Europe in the summer is like 80 degrees, but quite often it can get much higher than that these days with climate change. But yeah, I think maybe I see a lot of those transportation and traveling questions. Should we do that? And then maybe a final wrap up with maybe the panelists, anything that you think would be helpful to share as the second question. So maybe start with the transportation questions. We have just general transportation in Europe, like public transit, is it easy to navigate? And then also, did you find time to travel? And balancing that with coursework, any information you have, like what was daily life for traveling? Did you do stuff within your city? Did you go elsewhere?
Oh, yeah, I can start. Yes, I did travel and I was there for 6 weeks and I traveled for 5 weeks, 5 weekends. So it was great. The public transport is very easy to navigate. I took trains to go to London. So the train system is very nice. It's very convenient, always on time, mostly. And you can look at train options. You can also look at bus options over there. Then renting a car is just as difficult as it is in the US for people who are under 25. So there is an extra driver's fee and everything. So I traveled to Edinburgh, Wales, London, and even Northern Ireland and a few places in like England as well, like Brighton and everything. So I traveled quite a lot. I would say that when we were traveling with car, like the driver's license and have a physical ID if you're trying to rent a car. I know a lot of people did not get their physical driving license, which was like a thing. To keep it short, I would say it's convenient. You just have to figure out how you want to get there in the easiest way possible. Renting a car is definitely a bit challenging because of the age factor, but you can always fly out. As they say, the tickets in for flying in Europe is very cheap, but rail is also a very good option. So for me, it was very convenient. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm just gonna. Oh, hi, Frank.
Oh, hey.
Okay, you go ahead.
Yeah, I was gonna say, it was something about like at least like the all transportation thing, because I think I mentioned at least before, at least in the chat, but one thing you can at least do to at least navigate, for Europe is that they actually have a very excellent train system. Like one thing often, like for example, there's like this thing called like the Euro you can get like a little pass where you can at least like spend a lot of days where you can travel all throughout the continent for free. At least for some amount of days. And so I think that's actually a good investment. And also depending where you are, there's also like a good public transportation system with like the subway lines, like the bus lines. Take advantage as much as you can because there are surely a lot better than we have here.
Yeah, and also I would add Ryanair if you're in Europe. I took a round trip to Paris for 40 euros and it was a great trip. Also, like, um, yeah, like you can definitely find your way around. I know there's like Erasmus Student Network that does like planned trips. Um, and they also give you a discount on Ryanair as well. And I really like the trips they had planned. I didn't end up going on them, but I know one of the UC people that did that really enjoyed it. You can also plan personal trips with your friends. And I think that the trains are really great. Flixbus, there's, plane, there's a lot of different options. For day-to-day use, they also have like, depending on where you are, in Italy, they had like some electric bikes available. The buses were pretty great. Also, I recommend Google Maps. They're really good at lining out, the public transportation, where to get off, that sort of thing. At least I prefer it more to Apple. I think it's more updated on Google. And yeah, I also wanted to say really quickly, studying abroad in your last year, I graduated abroad, and I have to say it was a really unique experience. It was very bittersweet. Um, I'm actually going to do my commencement ceremony this following spring, just so I could be part of the experience. I would recommend that, just so you feel like you finish off where you started. Um, I would say definitely take advantage of it being your last year. I did an internship in the summer. So I ended up moving from Bologna to Milan, and I stayed an additional 3.5 months in my host country. So take advantage. The world is your oyster. Yeah.
For Spain, I would definitely say that the bus, the metro, the subway, there's so many ways of transportation in Spain. And also, I recommend getting the metro card. You can get the student one, and it's like 3 months for like 40 euros. Um, and then flying is very, very cheap. I did a lot of weekend trips. Like I went to Ireland, and I also went to many different parts of Spain um on the regular train, and it's definitely possible to go wherever you want.
Perfect. Thank you so much. I thought that was all incredibly helpful advice, and hopefully our recipients in the chat enjoyed it as well. So we are coming up on noon, which is when our panel will end. I was curious, just as a final note, it should only take a minute. If each of you could just give one piece of advice to an incoming student, what would it be? Just a quick little one sentence. What would your biggest piece of advice be to an outbound student?
Um, Soak it all in. Like, it's a once in a lifetime opportunity. Like, trust me when I say this. I have been in the US and, at UCSD for 4 years, but my study abroad in Cambridge was the best 6 weeks of my entire college. soak it all in, have a good time, have an open mindset, and make the most of this opportunity. And you're very lucky to be there. And so just make the most of the opportunity and be present and soak it in. Have a good time. Have a great time, guys.
Yeah, adding on to that, that's great advice. Have intentions, be intentional with what you do. This is a very unique, time of your life, of your academic career. It's a very formative experience. It can be a very formative experience. Have intentions, set goals for yourself, incremental goals that you hope to achieve, whether it's learning the language, whether it's traveling to a certain amount of places. Um, I think that having that kept me going. It was like a motivation, but also take time for yourself. It's so normal to get burnt out. You're doing so much, you're abroad, you're in another country. It's your first time, maybe doing that. So, have some patience with yourself. Um, just remember why you did it in the first place.
Yeah, I would also at least like to add on to Lisi's previous statements, because it's also best to also like plan ahead, especially like what are you gonna do in these like this new land, because it's gonna be like a new country, gonna be like new experiences, also have like opportunities for new adventures. Also best, probably also to make like a few friends, while you're at least like there, whether by the locals, by the people, at least studying abroad, because you'll never know, when you need them again, whether you want to go for a future trip or whether you want to come back, you need to like a place to stay. I'm just saying it's always best to at least like form a bit of a local connection while you're in the in the area.
I would say start early with applying because it takes a long time. I started in March. I didn't do my study abroad until January of that year. And then also, I would say just be in the moment, have fun, and like don't be scared to like go out of your comfort zone.
Thank you all so much. It was so lovely to hear all of your different experiences on study abroad. So we want to say a huge thank you to those of you who attended the panel as well. Thank you to Hannah, who was such a formative part of putting this all together with me. So Hannah, do you have any closing remarks you want to share?
Yes, I share Bryn's thanks to our panelists, to those who attended today. If we weren't able to answer your question, I apologize. We had so many great questions. I really appreciate every question that you all asked. But you can see here, we do have our general email address, info@uceap.universityofcalifornia.edu. You're welcome to reach out to us if we weren't able to get to your question. Also, we have some next steps for you. If you haven't already, you can explore the UCAP website, visit your Campus Study Abroad office website, or just visit their office. There's a lot of information on both of our websites. Drop into UCAP office hours. We have this QR code here. That office hours is setting up an appointment with UCAP advisors to ask some specific questions. And if you haven't already, I think most of you probably have, but you can start an application by selecting the Apply Now button on the UCAP website. And that's all for me, but I will leave the last word to Bryn.
I raised my hand by accident, so I want to say thank you everyone for coming and best of luck with your applications. Several of our panelists put their email into the chat, so you're welcome to follow up with them directly, as well as Hannah and myself. So thank you all so much. Have a lovely rest of your day.
Thank you.
Bye, everyone.
Bye, thank you.